Hi, today we will talk about interviewing success, including tips for video interviews. My name is Tiffany Franklin, and I work on the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences team. Our agenda will cover what employers value about interviews so you can understand how to approach them. We will go over specifics of how to prepare, common questions, some tips and tricks for video interviews, and a list of resources that are available to you. Interviews are the most important part of the job search process, and they come in many forms, but basically, this is a professional conversation. The employer wouldn't bring you in if they didn't already think you were qualified for the job. Now it's your turn to inspire confidence in them and give them concrete examples of your past success to help them see how you could be successful in this job. They really want to learn more about your skills and abilities and see how well you would be able to fit in this position. And of course, your honesty and integrity are really important. While every job will be a little bit different regarding the specific combination of skills they are looking, many jobs will also need a lot of soft skills. These are skills across the board. So even if your job is technical in nature, you still may have to work in a team. That's why communication, teamwork, your analytical and quantitative skills could be important, your organizational skills, and how well you're able to show attention to detail. In addition, are you motivated and can you demonstrate initiative? Or do you have a strong work ethic and will you be able to work independently? Are you adaptable? During the COVID, that is more important than ever with employers having to make constant changes in how they are doing things. And also your honesty and integrity. Are you someone who stands by their word and that they can count on? The three things employers want to know are how can you contribute to the organization and specifically in the role for which they're interviewing you. They also want to know why do you want to work for them? Was it just that you applied to 100 places and they're the one that called you back? Or specifically, what they want is to show why you want that company. Be able to understand the company's mission. Show that you've really gone through their website and done some research, maybe looked at recent press releases and understand their values because it comes down to being able to articulate, you know who you are, you understand who they are, and you can show how you can quickly jump in and make significant contributions. They also want to know what are you going to be like as a coworker. They sometimes call it the airport test. If you were stuck in an airport for hours together and say your chargers weren't working on your phones, would you be able to have a conversation and would you be able to get along well? For that, I don't worry about it as much. Just be yourself, be professional, but for the other two, really be able to focus on that. In preparing for the interview, you can start with some easy preparation, such as reviewing the job description. What I like to do is paste it into a Word doc, and after every sentence, have my resume beside it, and then go through and maybe put a few keywords about which thing on my resume actually corresponds with that particular skill they're looking for. So, say it's leadership, you could go through and look in your last internship, look at your research, look at class projects, or of course, just leadership and activities that you've done on campus for that. Also, as I mentioned before, review the organization's website. Really look at that mission and vision, their products, their services. You really want to understand how are they presenting themselves to the world and maybe even some certain touch points about, the CEO's name, when were they founded, were there big moments in their company history, just to have a sense of that. Some more challenging due diligence would be to go back and research 3 months of articles about the organization, especially with the current climate, seeing how they are adapting to everything going on. Understand their competitors and if they have any partnerships, and then you can learn about the culture. A lot of places you can go to resources like Glassdoor or also the Muse has a lot of articles about company environment. In reviewing the resources for your research, we talked at length about the organization's website, and of course, Handshake has a lot of great information, so be sure to check that out. We have info sessions, and you can go on to Handshake and see all the digital ones coming up this semester. There are annual reports. Of course, Googling often helps. So you can look at Google, you can look at Vault or Hoover's. We have many online subscriptions through the CS library. And then, of course, Lippincott Library has everything online. And talking to people is often a great way it's a form of networking to reach out to people at various companies. And I think asking about the culture is a wonderful thing because it is more subjective. And so basically, you would use QuakerNet or LinkedIn or CareerShift as ways to find alumni and reach out to them. And then the conversation would be, would they have a few minutes to talk about their company and what they like about it, what they do in a day, and maybe any advice as you're applying. So, getting prepared for the day of the interview, you want to dress appropriately. And what's appropriate is going to depend on the industry. For many industries, that's being very formal and professional with a suit. Um, However, that can change if you're talking tech and you arrived in a suit. That would not be what they would be expecting, and a more casual yet put together look. So, I will add some resources at the end of this so you can see some guidelines on dressing appropriately by industry. I would arrive 10 to 15 minutes early if it's an in person interview. Also, be sure to make sure you understand where the location is. If it is an in person interview, then account for traffic, and you want to also bring a portfolio with resumes, paper, pen. Turn off your cell phone. Even if you have it on vibrate, it can be a little loud and distracting. Be friendly and polite. We often say to shake hands, but given the current climate, there may not be any handshaking, but nodding instead. Make eye contact and sit up straight. You want to be professional, and you also want to be enthusiastic. I know everybody's nervous during an interview, but you want to show that you are happy to be there and know and use the interviewer's name. Usually, what I do is defer to their last name first, so Mr. or Ms. in the last name, and then if they say, oh, call me by my first name, then do so. To make a positive impression at the interview, you want to be confident. Now, that's not being arrogant, it's just believing that you have something of value to offer, but you'll also be humble. It's that nice mix. You want to remain positive. Don't talk badly about any previous experiences. Even negative ones can be a learning experience, so try and put the best spin on that. Give honest answers that are supported by examples. And you want to ask questions about the job, the organization, or services and products to show that you're interested. Be aware of their body language to show when the interview is coming to a close. And remember to reiterate that you are excited about the job. And if you've learned something that day, maybe speak specifically about ABC project and remind them of what you could contribute. And then ask when you may expect to hear from them. You could be coming at the very end of the hiring cycle or the very beginning, and that'll be good for your expectation management just to have an idea. Some interview do's are to use examples to back up your points. Again, you're trying to paint a picture of how you've been successful before and give them the idea of how you could be successful with them. Really listen to what question that they are asking and completely answer that. Maintain a conversational flow, so avoid monologues. You don't want to just go on and on. And whenever possible, think back, what are the key skills that this position entails, and how do your answers show them how you have done those skills or competencies? And remember to express your enthusiasm and smile throughout while still being natural. Some don'ts are avoid asking about salary. While you want to do your research and have an idea in mind about your requirements, you don't want to be the one to bring this up. Do not speak negatively about previous employers' activities or coworkers, because if you're speaking negatively about them, the current employer that you're looking at may think you would speak that way about them. Do not give either one word answers on one extreme or run on answers at the other. Do not use slang, unprofessional, or rude language. Be careful of your body language and your manners. You want to sit up straight and be professional. And don't memorize your answers. This is you. You know yourself. And if you try and memorize them, then you can trip yourself up. Instead, what you want to do is think about the competencies and your skills and practice some of these questions, saying them aloud. That way, you get rid of the ums and uhs, and you're not just memorizing. Some typical interview questions to expect are tell me about yourself. Basically, that question, they just want to hear a little bit more. So you don't have to start with, I was born on a stormy night. You don't have to say, my name is. Instead, I usually start either, if you're a freshman, then I would start, a little bit in high school. Or if you're an upperclassman, I would talk about when you first came to Penn. And it's really the high level view of overall, why did you study what you did? Did you do 2 internships while here at Penn? Yes, this one summer, maybe 2 or 3 sentences about what you did. So you're kind of taking them on the journey of where you've been, where you're going, and then you're going to wrap it up with, why you're interested in them. You may not have time to get into why you're interested in them, but if you do, that's great. Also, they may ask you that question right afterwards. So have a sense of that, of what specifically about that company and that role intrigued you. Know why you want that industry. Have a sense of what you have to contribute. And when you think about all your strengths, think about the one that really ties into that job. What motivates you, your ideal supervisor. Some difficult ones are, what is your greatest weakness? With that, I like to take something that was maybe from freshman year or even a couple years ago. What is something that is legitimate weakness? Because if you just take a strength like I care too much, I've seen memes about that. You want something genuine, but yet that is not an inherent part of that job. Because if this job is all about being careful with details and you say, I'm not detail oriented, of course that's going to scare them. So as you think about something, for a lot of people it may be public speaking. But what they've done, they've taken a course where they had the opportunity to do that, and then it's really helped them. So you can have a legitimate weakness, just make sure it's not completely related to the job and it's something you've worked to overcome and show how you have. Other things, the tell me about a time you failed. That one, they're looking more for your resiliency. When things don't go your way, how do you not fall apart? What have you done? A lot of times in research, there's a lot of trial and error. So that can be a great example where you talk about a time when something didn't go as originally hypothesized, how you stopped, you strategized, you tried some new things, and then how that worked out. The main thing with the difficult questions is just to stop, breathe, think about what they're asking, and then deliver a success story if possible. Behavioral interview questions are based on the premise that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So this gives you a chance to share your success stories. And I like to use the CAR method. Sometimes you hear STAR, situation, task, action, result. I like CAR just because it's shorter. So what was the challenge you encountered, the action you took, and the positive results? You want to keep your answers between 90 seconds and 2 minutes. And what I like to do is write out a bunch of skill areas on a piece of paper, like leadership, problem solving, communication, negotiations, handling a difficult situation, all those types of skills, competencies, and then put 2 CARs underneath. And I don't actually write it out. I may do like challenge, colon, and then a few keywords. So I like to have my resume right beside that piece of paper and then come up with 2 different examples for each, for leadership or teamwork. That way you can draw from a bunch of success stories, if you will, and prepare. You still want to listen to each question they ask to make sure you're answering their question. But once you do that, you have this great, list of 20 or 30 success stories to pull upon. Here are some sample questions that they may ask. If you ever hear describe a time, give an example of, tell me about a time when, these are all behavioral questions, which you can use that challenge, action, result format. And the thing is, just think about, you can draw from examples from your courses, your group projects, your internships, your summer jobs, your leadership and activities on campus. Pretty much everything is fair game. Of course, if you've had internships, then it's great to draw from those in your research, but everything can be helpful when you're doing your best. And if for some reason you haven't had a specific thing happen to you, like you haven't found it necessary to challenge authority, then what you can do is think, how would I hypothetically respond to that situation? For out of the blue questions, they just really want to know, how do you think on your feet, and respond to pressured situations. So just be creative, do your best. So, if they ask you what kind of fruit, what fruit would you be? I don't know, you could say you'd be a strawberry because you really like the color red and it's good for you. And, you can just have fun with the question, but still be professional, and just realize that there's probably no right answer for that. It's just doing the best that you can with it. It's really important that you have about 3 to 5 questions ready to ask the interviewer at the end. This shows that you are really interested in the role and the company. Now, the thing is, during the interview, they'll probably be having a conversation with you, and they may ask you or explain some of this information already. That's why I always like to have some extras written down in advance, and it's even better if you can look at the company website and maybe even ask some questions based on that. But some things to ask are, what's the greatest challenge the person in this role will face? You can ask about the training, the projects that they've had past interns work on, and a typical work day. And perhaps if they're a hiring manager and they're in that department, you can even see about what they like best about the company and their experience. People love talking about themselves, so that's always something that can help. Given everything going on these days, it's highly likely that you will be doing some video interviews this fall. While most of the same rules apply as far as preparing for the actual content of the interview, there are a few other things that we can go over to help you be successful with this. When preparing for video interviews, not only do you want to prepare all your content just like you do for regular interviews, but you also want to make sure that the environment is conducive to a great interview. So first you want to optimize your lighting and sound. Make sure it's not too bright or too dark, that they can actually see your face. Make sure that you don't have any distractions during the interview, such as pets or other family members or friends coming through. Make sure you have a professional background and that you dress professionally. So if, even though they may not see it off camera, you want to wear a full suit or whatever is appropriate for your industry, and just the more professional you are, it will come across in the way that you're speaking. Be sure to download and test the software in advance. So whatever the familiarize yourself with a few of the online meeting platforms used by employers, such as Zoom, Skype, BlueJeans, and really make sure that you have it on in advance on your computer, that everything's working with your camera. Even practice recording yourself ahead of time. See what the tone of your voice is like, and have a backup plan. And the online does not work, make sure that they have your phone number, you have theirs, and just planning ahead will make you less anxious in case there are any inevitable glitches. In terms of content, you want to show any time that you have worked remotely in the past. That way it can show your ability to work without direct supervision, especially if this is a position that will be remote and not just the interview itself. Think about how to offer solutions. Where are you applying, and what kind of challenges may they face currently, and how could you help them given your past experience? And then think about how you will present examples of your work. Do you have, an online portfolio? Do you have GitHub for coding? Many of these online meeting platforms will allow screen sharing. So plan ahead of how you would show your interview work on that way, and also what else you have on your screen. Make sure everything is professional. Here are resources to help you learn more, including a video with great tips for acing online interviews. There's also one on how to look good in Skype interviews, including lighting and sound tips. We have blog posts on video interviewing and an interviewing channel on Penn Career Services site, which has a wealth of information on preparing for interviews, questions to expect, and how to answer those. Be sure to send a thank you email within 12 hours of the interview. I often like to write it in Microsoft Word first and then transfer it to email. Very last thing, remember to send a professional subject line with it. Just the thank you is fine. And that you include everyone with whom you interviewed with. In fact, I like to send them separate emails and just change up the wording a little bit. Re-express your interest in the position and why, what did you learn from the interview that made you even more interested in this job, and then restate next steps. Here are additional information and resources for you. We have Big Interview, which is a great tool to help you get feedback on your interviewing. And then we have a whole online course on interviewing. You'll just have to scroll down past the resume and networking courses, and it's self-directed on Canvas. You will have to put your pen key in there to get that. And then there's the whole online interview guide. And for those of you interested in case interviews, we have some great resources with that final guide at the bottom there, the case interview. Thank you for your time today, and please be sure to check out more of our resources on our interview channel and our others, and to reach out to us by team for appointments if you need any additional help in your mock interviews that we offer, where we can ask you questions as if we are the interviewers and give you feedback about what you're doing right and maybe little things to help you optimize your answers. Best of luck to you.